I am Melinda Sampson, the Community Outreach Coordinator for NC Stop Human Trafficking.
How you decided to start this nonprofit organization?
I actually didn't start it. My founder, Pam Strickland, did, and I went into advocacy through actual journalism. I was a journalist for 7 years. So when I was doing investigative work and enterprise pieces in the Wilson County, Wayne County, Lenoir County area, I actually came across men who were being trafficked for labor in tobacco fields. And so through their stories and the realization that when I was doing other stories about commercial sexual exploitation, that women were being trafficked, specifically through the avenue of substance abuse, I decided to go into human trafficking advocacy. So that's why I'm here now. And Pam created the NC Stop Human Trafficking about 10 years ago. And I asked her if she would hire me.
How many years are you involved with this organization?
Two years and some change.
How your life changed since you started this?
Well, going into advocacy is much different than journalism. I mean, they're tangential really, but through journalism you tell the stories of other people, so hopefully the greater public will understand injustice for the most part, which is why I went into journalism, and I loved it. Journalism was amazing to me, but at some point it's time, after you hear so many stories, and not just human trafficking stories, but stories of great injustice and sadness and all these stories, you carry them with you. So I wanted to carry them in a way that maybe did something, that didn't just present it to the public and leave it in their hands, but I wanted to put it in mine a little bit, put that responsibility in mine a little bit. So that's why I kind of shifted, and I haven't regretted it. And now has my life changed? Oh yeah. Now you get to say the things that you could never really say in a piece that you wrote. Like, this is the problem. I could always say this is the problem. Now I can say this is how we can fix this problem. We can curb this. This is the injustice, and this is what happens when we keep perpetuating those injustices, but it doesn't have to be this way, and you really can't do that in journalism. You just present the information in the best way, with the best way possible, with the best messaging you know how to do, to say this is a problem, and hopefully the people pick it up. But sometimes the people don't pick it up. Sometimes people don't care like you care, and so now I get the opportunity to say, hey, I care, and this is what we should do. Now my life has changed significantly, because when you have opinions, a lot of people don't agree with those opinions, and you just have to live with it, and I'm fine with that.
You probably learned a lot about different cases of human trafficking. Is it difficult how it affects your personal mental health?
Right. So when I was meeting the survivors of trafficking, specifically, like while I was a journalist, this is not when I was in advocacy at all, the weight of it certainly weighs on you, because you just know it's there and it's not gonna go away until somebody does something. So the kind of social responsibility that you carry, that I began to carry, was really heavy. Now, hearing more cases and meeting more survivors who are very open about their experiences, in some ways it can feel like it's just never you're never gonna be able to make an impact that you need to make for this to be better. But then you get to meet the people that you work with, like we're a part of the Pitt County Coalition Against Human Trafficking. So you get to meet all these professionals that are committed, and they're doing things to change everything, and you just change your mind about it. Like, there's the hope, there's the hope, and because you're not in doing this work alone.
Why it is important to talk about this problem?
Well, because if you don't normalize the conversation and you don't bring it to the attention of people and let them understand that it is actually a problem, then nothing's ever going to change. And that's from the top down. So change begins with sound policy, right? So if policymakers don't understand it's a problem, then there's no sound policy change. And all the way down to, you know, family dynamics and social dynamics. If the community doesn't recognize human trafficking as an issue, they're not going to know how to even approach it. Like when you see human trafficking, when you talk about human trafficking and you see a possible survivor and you don't recognize what you're looking at, you're not going to call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888. You're not going to recognize that that person needs help, because in many cases human trafficking survivors are stigmatized. When you look at commercial sexual exploitation, what do you think? You think, oh my gosh, this person needs help. When you say the term prostitute, what do you think? There's stigma around all of that, and communities, if they're not aware of what's going on, don't respond in a compassionate manner to people who need help. That's why a lot of our work, our organizational work, and my work personally, is to develop a sense of compassion in the community for people that you might think one thing about, but might not actually be the case for them. So there's the value in letting the whole community know, and then also letting families know. Parents do really want to know what kids are doing online, and kids are getting groomed online by traffickers. And parents don't recognize that. They want to keep their kids safe physically, like don't get kidnapped, right? But human trafficking rarely begins when you're talking about kidnap. It's more grooming, like grooming online, grooming in person. It looks more like intimate partner violence. It looks more like teen dating violence when you're talking about young people, and you know, the complete deception of a person. And kids are easily deceived. So it's when the family unit understands what human trafficking is, and the community then understands, and then you have a societal understanding, then it takes away the normalization of exploitation. And that's a big part of why human trafficking persists, because it is the normalization of exploitation in society as a whole.
What would you say is the main purpose of your organization?
Well, our main purpose, our vision is a state free of human trafficking. And we do that through creating communities actively working to abolish human trafficking in their own community. So our main purpose is creating that atmosphere in individual communities across the state to where it takes away the normalization of exploitation. If communities come together, with multiple professionals at a table in coalitions and collaborating, and then we bring together community advocates and community members and families and kids all to one table, and we kind of dismantle the idea that exploitation of people is correct, because it is very much a normalized piece of society. We don't recognize it as a normalization, but it absolutely is. And we begin dismantling the idea of exploitation of women and girls, exploitation of LGBTQ plus people, exploitation of people of color, exploitation of workers. And we kind of take that piece by piece down, one by one, step by step.
How important it is that our sheriff's office assigned a special investigator to deal with human trafficking?
It is very important. This is a wonderful progress in anti-human trafficking work in the county specifically. Human trafficking investigator at the sheriff's office means that investigations will not only result in arrests, but also convictions of traffickers. And you'll find if you look at it more, convictions of traffickers are really low. It's a low risk crime, and that's a lot because that's based a lot on the fact that there aren't investigators specific to human trafficking. Well, the Sheriff Paula Dance recognized that, and she hired a special investigator for it. And it's so wonderful because the conviction rate could go up in the county, but also the victims will be served better because a specific human trafficking investigator would recognize that victims and survivors need certain services that don't include the justice system. Like includes, mental health services, substance abuse services, getting them a place to stay if they need it. So it's really important on not only when you're talking about arrests and convictions, but also when you're talking about survivor services. I'm so excited about this investigator, and Sheriff Dance really did a great job. The Sheriff's Office has always been a part of the Pitt County Coalition Against Human Trafficking, and we kind of recognized that was a goal of theirs for a while, and we were so glad that it was fruitful. Yeah.
What advice you can give to public about how they can be more aware and how they can help with making this issue to disappear?
So if you don't know the reality of human trafficking, then I would suggest people learn it. Human trafficking isn't what many people think it is. It's more insidious. It involves more deception and manipulation. So when people can learn what that deception looks like and what that kind of coercion looks like and what that fraud looks like, then they're more equipped to not only protect their loved ones from an abusive partner or an abusive relationship, but they're also better, they develop a sense of compassion in their hearts for people. So when people are able to learn what human trafficking is, really learn it, they are better able to stop it. I mean, because you're not going to be able to arrest your way out of these out of human trafficking. You're not going to be able to just provide survivor services and call it a day. In the end, it's going to take a whole community to change how they see things. So I would encourage people to change how they see things. And if they suspect somebody's being trafficked, call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888.